All right, hello, and welcome to a build guide for Echo Void Knight Warpath. Now, you probably haven't seen me in a little bit, and I apologize. I took some time off and just realized that I haven't put a video out since like July, which is a long time to not put a video out. But season 2 of Last Epoch is here. I am back. I'm back streaming, and I'm going to be putting out some videos. I don't promise to put them out as much as I was, because that was a lot of videos. But some videos are, yeah, I'll blame the algorithm. That's a good idea. It's the algorithm's fault. I actually put them out and they just got lost. But no, in all seriousness, we will be putting out some videos now. I am streaming pretty regularly again. We're super hyped about season 2, and I'm going to show you all the build I'm going to be starting with and probably trying to kill Uber Aberoth with, well, a version of it. So it's the Echo Void Knight Warpath. Let me also talk about max roll. So I'm still with max roll. I am doing most of the resource guides for them, but I have stepped away from build guides, at least for now, possibly permanently. I don't know yet, but I have stepped away from them for time reasons, which means that there is a Warpath guide on max roll, but it is not one that I have made. It is made by Volca, and it is an excellent guide, and it's going to be really good, especially at this super, like, the late game push. It's going to be excellent at killing Uber Aberoth. In fact, for Uber Aberoth, I will very likely be changing to his guide. However, for the way that I like to play, I've chosen something a little different. I like to go fast. I like to have really high clear speed. His build has a lot of investment before it gets really up and running, and so I don't feel like it would be good for me earlier. So this is what I'm going to make, and for anyone who also feels like they fit into that realm, this could be a good place for you to start and then go into Volcas. But you can also absolutely go into Volcas like as soon as, like, I think 70 or something, and do it that way. Mine will also come with a leveling section, and I will be putting out a leveling guide video probably like an hour after this one, so you can take this one from quote-unquote 0 to hero if you want to. You can start with the leveling section here, and then you can go all the way through, play us to 100, play us. You can probably kill Uber Aberoth with this, but I do recommend, if you're going to try to do like deep 1000+ corruption Uber Aberoth type stuff, Volcas is going to be better for that. But for everything else, if this is what interests you, let's talk about what it is. So you may already know about my Echo Warpath Void Knight build that has been in max roll for, well, as long as we've had build guides on there. This is very similar. This is the updated version. So it's going to do the things that build did, but better. So I should have some footage on here. This is footage, old footage, because CT footage is not released yet, so I can't show you what it looks like right now. Know that it looks very similar with more prettiness. It's got more stuff going on. It's got some new skills in it that I couldn't use before. Devouring Orb is in it now. One version of it has Abyssal Echoes. It had easy access Symbols of Hope now, which used to be Sigils of Hope. And there's a lot more purple explosions that go on. So it's a prettier build than it was. It was already fairly pretty. So if you like pretty builds, this, especially if it's purple, if you like purple, this is going to be right up your alley. But let's actually talk about what the build is, what it does, and how to set it up. So this is the end game leveling video. Go check that out if you want that. But what we are going to be doing is Warpath, in which this is a permanent Warpath setup. It's where you can stay in a Warpath mostly all the time, with one exception. If you want to traverse areas where there are no enemies faster, you can void cleave through them. You don't have to. It's just, I find it to be a little bit faster, and this build isn't as reliant on staying in that echo setup that it was before, where like you really could not stop spinning in Warpath because you'd lose too much. It is a little risky to do that if you're at like higher corruption. So this is very much a play it as you feel like you can to use Void Cleave, but it's got some benefits. It does a decent little bit of damage itself, and it definitely is faster than just going straight Warpath. But Warpath will be the majority of what you're doing. You're just going to spin. You literally spin to win. This is set up to be spin to win with minimal buttons. If you want to have a casual time but still be able to do high level content, if you like just be like chill and kill, loot, I mean, it's hard to beat Warpath. So the setup gives us lots of channel cost reduction, so we're actually at 0, and you can actually gain mana while you're in it now. We take speed, we take the hit damage per timer is the #1 thing that really gets it going. And then we also take Whirling Steel, and we use a two-hander, so we've got double multipliers, and we are going to get some crit chance as well. Then the other skills that we have Symbols of Hope, which is just amazing now. It used to be awful. If you use Sigils of Hope before and you're like, I'm not going to use that, trust me, it's nothing like that. Now it just actively summons the symbols for you, and you just get the buffs, and you don't have to do anything. Like, you can press a button and get some defensive buffs and lose the offensive buffs if you want to, but you don't actually have to do anything. It's just going to buff the hell out of your character. You're going to get Empowering Symbols, which is 25% more damage per symbol, or excuse me, increased. That's a big distinction, which ends up being 100% increased damage. Fire damage actually gets converted to void, so this ends up being 12 void damage. You're going to get 20% crit chance per symbol, ends up being 80%. And also, you're going to end up with Endurance Threshold. This is going to be 300 Endurance Threshold, which is nice for your defense. It also just comes with some additional fire damage, which again gets converted to void, so you're going to get a decent bit of added void damage. This one and this one are really powerful, and this one's a really good defensive thing. And you don't have to do anything for it, so it's just free. The next one is Devouring Orb. This could not work prior to 1.2, prior to Season 2. This was not an option. What changed is Abyssal Rush, which now auto-casts while you're moving. So again, a skill you don't have to do anything. You just spec it and go. And from doing that, you're going to get 10% global more damage and 10% increased mana regen. Eventually, if you can get to 90 plus vitality, which is not easy, but it's doable, this will go up to 20% and 20%. You will also get Void Essences, which are awesome. Void Essences are super powerful. Just to show you what they do, we got it here too. They're going to give you 3% more void damage and 3% more melee damage. These are multiplicative with each other, so like it's not additive. That's better. And you can have a maximum of 3, so you get 9% and 9%. So double, effectively 10% multipliers. And to get those, all we need to do is Devouring Orb 4 points, and then 1 point in the passive tree over here, in essence at the end, and you'll essentially have it all of the time. So more multipliers is great. We're also going to be able to Void Shred from this, so you don't need to worry about getting Void Shred from another source. It's covered here, easy. The rest of this, the way it's set up, this is what I've ultimately found kind of felt the best as far as applying the most Void Res shred chance, but this is probably, you can play with this. It might not actually be the ideal, but it's set up well enough to where you'll do well with it. But you can play with this, you can just a Chaotic Torrent over this stuff over here if you want to, but I just found with the expiring, helping with the Abyssal Juggernaut, and then helping with Rending Maw, this was the one that worked the best for me. Anomaly was always in it. It still is. The big change I would say here is that we take the -3 cooldown on Anticipation. I don't think we used to take that. I don't even know if it was actually there, but it is now. We definitely take that now. We get the 50% void damage taken, Mark of Rot. This used to say 100%. It was always apparently 50%, so we were getting, ripped off, but now we get 50%. Still really good. And then we're going to get some attack speed and cast speed out of this, and then we're going to do additional Void Res shreds, so you'll be absolutely guaranteed to get your 10 stacks on bosses when you hit your anomaly on them. So you hit anomaly on a tanky enemy, make sure you hit it on them so it gets Mark of Rot, then you get your time bubble, and then you get your attack speed, you get additional Void Res Shred on them, and you should kill them pretty quickly. And then we already mentioned Void Cleave. This setup currently, I might change it. Just keep an eye on this one, but I've currently set it up to where it gets some leech. I don't know how I feel about it because it's not that much leech, but the other option is to give it some armor shred, and that's not very good either. I can give an additional charge. Doesn't seem super important because we already get 2 because of the boots that we wear. Basically what I'm trying to say is whatever's over here is kind of inconsequential or close to inconsequential, and this is doing all the work. So you're getting the traversal skill, you're getting distance on it, you're getting the increased cooldown recovery. This actually is important, and you're getting some mana back, which isn't really also that important, but really this is kind of doing the work here. This node, and this node, because it's just a traversal skill. That's all we're using this for. You could literally take this off your bar and you'd still be fine. But if you want to move a little bit faster, Void Cleave does it. And we're going to actually take that out in another version that we'll talk about in a little bit. Okay, let's talk about the passives. So this is a pretty standard setup for Sentinel, the base class, at least for me. The big thing that we'll take it later, remember to use this bar down here to track the pathing. I have set this up to be optimal or somewhat optimal depending on the player as far as which nodes you should take late or earlier and later, and Blade Master's taking quite a bit later. But we start here. We're going to take some nodes in Void Knight up to about here, and then we're going to switch over to Paladin. Let's talk about some of the big nodes that we're taking here. World Eater, super important. This is your leech. Not your only leech, but a large portion of your leech. Void Corruption gives a ton of crit multi with some crit chance. Void and Fizz damage -5 taken is new to Abyssal Endurance. It's great. It was already a great node. Now it's an even better node. Woe is a solid node with frailty and slow chances given to you, but also Void Pen's nice. Singular Purpose is really good. This is now a 10%, or excuse me, a 20% multiplier because we end up with less than 30% block chance. And -5 damage taken from slow damage, and -5 damage taken from time rotting enemies. Those are also multiplicative of each other, so you get both. So this is insanely good. We also have a new one, Abyssal Fluctuation. It's insanely good. -20% void damage taken, elemental damage taken as void. Remember, we also have -5 void damage taken over here. So we have a 20 and a 5, and half of that applies to elemental as well. This really helps to make you tanky. Mortal Cleave now is a 5% base crit, and it also does give you a more damage buff that won't be up for some bosses, but will be up for almost all of your clearing, and will be up for any bosses that have minions. So this is a good node. It's not an amazing node, but it's good enough to where we can not worry about crit chance elsewhere and put some points into other things. And then Echoing Strikes, Time Legion, and Avatar Brevet are the same as they used to be. This increases your ability to echo in Warpath, which you can't do unless you take, not Apocalypse Sword, unless you take Echo Knight. This allows Warpath to echo, and then those nodes are turned on, which you will have by just following the guide. Okay, let's talk about the Paladin side. We take the Paladin side to get Symbols of Hope. They're still good nodes, but that's the primary reason why we're over here. So we take Defiance, 5 points in that, gives us 15% elemental res, and then Endurance Threshold per 2 uncapped ele res is just a nice little bonus. And then we take Valor. This gives us 20% full endurance and 120 health. This is a really good node. Just generally a very good node to have. And that gets us our Symbols of Hope. Okay, let's talk about the equipment on this side, and then we'll talk about the kind of sort of variant. We'll start with Blessings, because they're kind of easy to talk about. Crit multi. This can also be void damage, that's good, but crit multi is better if you have all the crit. If you don't have like a lot of crit chance, you don't have like the base crit, like from Clothos Needle and from the passive tree, then this is actually better as void damage, but it's not a huge difference. You can get either one. But once you've got the crit multi is better. Grand Rhythm of the Tide was always a solid choice. It's gotten even a little bit better with a 200% increased health regen plus 20 health regen. And then we can now get health regen base on rings. So that makes us even more powerful. And you can see in here we have 300 health regen, which is way more than we would have gotten before. That is really good for scenarios to where you have to run away from some things and you cannot leech for a short period of time. This will give you some sort of regen to keep you going. Not super important for the build, but it's a nice little extra that we have even more of this season if you get the health regen in your rings. Grand Resolve of Humanity is just great. 20% all res. Excellent. There's not much to say about that. And then Grand Patience of Hercur has been nerfed multiple times and is still excellent. 650 armor while channeling is a lot of armor. Combine that with Bulwark of the Tundra and other sources of armor. This is not accurate. This does not include Grand Patience of Hercur or some other things, and also his armor mitigation number is low. It's not accurate either right now. It's something that hopefully will be fixed soon. We're actually much closer to like 75 or more. I think 85 is the top end, whatever it is. We have a lot of armor mitigation from this, and you're going to see that if you get this kind of setup, you're also going to take that armor mitigation, and it's all going to count towards dots as well, which is absolutely insane in this game. Easily the best dot mitigation in the game is Sentinel right now. It's not even close. And dots have been nerfed, but it's still really powerful to have that. So that's our blessings. Let's talk about our just general gear. So Null Portent is not like super important. You can't even get this until Aberoth, base Aberoth. Don't worry too much about it. +4 Warpath and increased health and vitality. if you can get a nice, just like exalted with that, that'll take you a long, long way. And then eventually get it on null portent, and you'll be blasting. Clotho's Needle is new. This used to be the axe that I can never remember the name of. For some reason, Apathy's Maw, even though I put it on this build every single time. It used to be Apathy's Maw. Apathy's Maw is still good here, and now you can guarantee the melee crit chance so that you can build for crit, which makes it even easier to get. And I am going to be going for Apathy's Maw first. You'll actually see in the, I have a mid-game section I'll talk about in the leveling, where it's in the mid-game uniques. But for end game, your goal is to get the Clotho's Needle. It's got the added melee crit chance, which is, that's now covered. You don't need to get that elsewhere. 180 melee damage, 11 strength, and then you will get some benefit from the melee crit multi per meter from the target, especially with your echoes. It's just stronger. It's just stronger from base stats, and it's also a Weaver's Will item, and so you're going to be able to probably get more total tiers on this than you would be able to get on most legendaries. That does mean you're going to have to farm this, and you're going to have to get lucky. But if you can get melee void damage and increase melee attack speed, this is awesome. And if you happen to get Shred or Void Pen on it as well, you've got an insanely good weapon. That's just gonna, it's just, I don't even know what else to say about it. It's just so good. Some things that are coming back from last season, in fact, most of these I would say, Dark Stride is how you get a lot of movement speed on this build, because if you build melee void damage, which we will have a little bit less by going with Clotho's Needle, we'll have that 119 on there. But it's still going to be well over 100% move speed. That's all we really need, honestly. And all the other stats in this are really good too. Shattered Chains is another multiplier. You get more melee damage per stack of Doom, so I think it ends up being like 15% more. And increased melee damage, and 10 melee void damage, and 70% armor. And then if you get it legendary versions, you're going to be in a really good spot with this. Siphon of Anguish is just like an easy take. Also applies the Doom. You get Leech from this. You get Elemental Resists. You get move speed. I mean, it's just good. Doom, by the way, makes them take more damage, so more melee damage, so that's good. I love Carcinization of Momentum, especially in this build where we do not want to use the dodge roll. Just, it's not worth it. If you need to do a dodge type move, use Void Cleave. Otherwise, you're going to go faster than the dodge roll anyway. So instead of that, we take Swiftness, we get movement speed, we get armor, +6 all attributes, and +6 vitality are super valuable for getting over 90 vitality. A little bit extra health regen. And then if you can get stats like it's got on this, like endurance, crit strike, even better. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, we got to talk about Code of an Erased Sentinel. And while we're here, let's talk about damage, armor mitigation. Armor mitigation, excuse me, also applies to damage over time. So this gives you 30%. And if you get a pair of gloves like this, you're up to 60, 84%. Almost all of your armor counts for mitigation. You're in like the 75% armor mitigation for Fizz, and like probably in the 50s or 60s for everything else. That's a ton of dot reduction. And then you can get more now on your idols because of the new enchanted idols. So you can actually get to 100%. And now, good luck dying to dots, especially if you're leeching. Like, it's just not going to happen unless you're fighting something insanely powerful, like maybe Uber Aberoth. But everything else is going to have no chance. If you get you want all res while channeling as your primary on this, and it's a big primary. Like, over everything else, you want all res while channeling. All the other stuff is great, but that's your number one. And then this is another item from Aberoth, so don't worry too much about getting it. It also has super crazy rolls. If you can get a really good amulet that fits your stats, fits your resistances, gives you some health, some crit strike, crit multi, that's going to be perfectly right. But once you get to the point where you can wear this, you're gonna do even better. It's got more armor, mana regen, all skills, all res. Like, it's just insanely powerful, and increased health and movement speed. It's such a powerful amulet, but really hard to get a good one of this. So again, don't worry about that. Worry more about the stats that are on this and are on your amulet, making sure you get good ones, making sure you get your health, crit multi, crit strikes, crit strike chance, some good base ones. Bone amulet's a good base one. Oracle amulet's a really good base. Jade amulet's a good base as well. So yeah, whatever you can kind of grab in there until you get to that point. Okay, we talked about this spot already, but health, crit strike chance, are nice as well. Crit strike chance, you want to get to 100% and then no further. This is set up to be just over 100% currently. Where you get it, that depends on your drops. So put it where you can. Another thing to point out on this is I have everything here set up with a tier 7 and a tier 6. It does not, of course, mean that you can't get 2 tier 7s. I've done it this way to clue you in onto what are your priorities. So this is a tier 7 because it's the most important stat. This is a tier 6 because it's the second most important stat. Everything else is, you know, secondary to that or tertiary to that. So that should, you don't need to get all these stats on it too, by the way. Like this has, you know, 4 stats because it's a Weaver's Will. You don't need to get all 4 of these stats. They don't need to be tier 7, tier 6, tier 5, tier 5. This is just telling you if you can, if you get lucky, this is ideal, right? But you're not going to have ideal. But what you want to do is you want to prioritize melee void and then secondarily melee attack speed. And then if you can get void pen and chance of shred, awesome. That's what it's trying to tell you. Okay, I think that's all for the equipment. Let's talk about the idols. So not all the equipment. Warpath area melee void damage are awesome. Vitality melee void damage are awesome. Inspiration is nice. Shred armor is really, we want some sources of shred armor for sure. So in this case, we have it here. We have it here. You can also get it on your amulet, and it's really good there. You can also get it on your gloves. We want at least over 100, but really ideally like over 200. The enchanted stuff is all brand new. You don't get that until the end game. You get that from the Woven faction and from doing cemeteries and tombs, which is also where these guys drop. So also these stats are new: vitality, health regen, melee damage, increased melee damage, void pen, void damage, all brand new stats. Again, these are ideal, but fit in whatever you need as far as resistances, health, etc. And then there's a number of stats that are really good for this build as far as the enchanted ones. You definitely want some sources of gain frenzy for 3 seconds from the echo and ability. Ideally, we'd have more than 2, but you can't fit them on here, and that vitality is like really important to get to the 90. So I couldn't find a way into doing 4 3x1s, but I really wish I could because I'd love to have 20% chance to gain frenzy for 3 seconds when echoing an ability. It would make that up a lot more, but I just haven't figured out how to do it yet. It might not be possible. This is also allowing us to fill in our endurance to get to our 60%, because that's where you want to be, 60% endurance. And is also helping us with crit strike chance a little bit and crit multi. And more of that armored mitigation applies to damage over time. And reduced bonus damage taken for crit strikes can also fit in here. By the way, I should have mentioned this before, 85% of our 100% needed can come just from this helmet. So prioritize that helmet implicit, just like you should prioritize the gauntlet implicit. They're super important. This is more reduced bonus damage taking crits and armor mitigation. Just fit it where you can, basically. Wherever you can get good enchantments on it. It's really, really, like, these are shown as double tier 7s. You're not going to get that, but it's possible. So it's on here. But just get the best you can. A good combination of this. Make sure you're getting enough of whatever you need to max out your endurance. Try to get as close as you can to maxing out armor mitigation. Applies damage over time. And try to get at least 2 sources of frenzy for 3 seconds to echo an ability, and you'll be looking really, really good. Okay, that is all for that. The one other thing that we need to talk about is I do have a late game Abyssal Echoes transition. There's 2 things in here that are different. Technically. I guess technically there's more, but there's 2 major things that are different here. First off, we have reduced channel cost on the Sentinel helmet, which allows us to now use Abyssal Echoes. And Abyssal Echoes gives us a multiplier that we may or may not should have. I worded that terribly, but there's a 20% damage versus blinded and a 20% attack speed with buff for Embrace the Darkness. You get every 5 seconds when you quote-unquote directly use Abyssal Echoes. But this works with Warpath, Abyssal Tempest. It always has worked with it, and it hasn't been fixed. So all we can do is assume that it's working as intended, and maybe the tooltip is wrong. But I've got it in here under this transition instead of like plan A because of that, but more importantly because if you try to run this too early, you'll just run out of mana. You really need to have that reduced channel cost. And if that's not enough, it should be enough, but if that's not enough, you might even need some mana regen. But between that and 5 points here, it should be enough to run it. And that's the primary reason we're going to run this. You also get some like armor shred from this, and mostly just armor shred. Some armor shred from this, but we really want that 20% damage and attack speed buff. And in this case, you don't have a movement ability, but by the time you make this transition, you should be over 100% move speed. It shouldn't be that important. So you should be like golden with that. The only other difference in this setup from the endgame one is we've added Shattered Worlds, which is a god tier item. Less damage taken, immune to slow, have haste, another 5% added crit strike chance, plus 10 to all attributes, increased frenzy effect on you, which we have frenzy from the idols, remember, and plus 1 to all skills. Now you do want one with at least all res while channeling, and you know, if you get crit multi your health, even better. Why is this in this late game one? Because I think it drops off of Uber Aberoth. I don't know. I legitimately do not know where this drops, but I think it's going to be off of Uber Aberoth because it's so insanely good. The only thing that makes me wonder is it has a level 67 requirement to wear, which seems low for an Uber Aberoth fight. But I'm still, my gut's going with this is an Uber Aberoth item, and the vast majority of people will never get one of these, even a 0 LP. So I don't want to put it in the endgame one when you have like almost no chance of getting it. I think a lot of people can kill Aberoth now, especially the game has gotten stronger. I believe I think base Aberoth is actually a little weaker than it used to be. So I don't think this is a problem to have like Nihilus and Null Portent in here. But putting in an Uber Aberoth item seems like really aggressive. So we're going to put it in the late game. And if you can get that, you got an awesome item for sure. It's harder HP wise somehow. Oh, really? The base Aberoth? Sorry, Lizard's talking to me in chat here. Really? Okay, so it's apparently harder HP wise, but hopefully with the increase in power overall, it'll still be, people can kill it. Okay, I think that is it for the endgame build guide. So I'll put this out today. Again, this is a fast setup. It's not top end damage like Volka's is. This is not the one I recommend to do Uber Aberoth on, but if you're looking for something that's really fast, there's a lot of clear, especially as a starter build, this is going to be really, there's the bee dance. This is going to be really, really good for that. And this is what I'm going to be starting with. So I wanted to get that out so you guys could play the build that I'm playing if you want to. All right, thank you so much for watching. An hour or so after I've released this, I will also have hopefully released the leveling guide for this so that you can play something that transitions into Warpath as quickly as possible. I hope you have a great time in Season 2 like I'm going to, and I'll see y'all again real soon.